Part G of question 5 is asking us to solve for angle 1 in the diagram here. And so what we have here is an inscribed regular pentagon. And if we remember, we can figure out the interior angle sum of the pentagon. It's you can figure it out just really by kind of drawing what's in the diagram here, splitting up the pentagon into triangles and remembering that each triangle has to add up to 180 degrees. So really what we have here is 180 plus 180 plus 180, which is 540 degrees. So we know that all the angles in this pentagon, or the interior angle sum of the pentagon, is going to be 540 degrees. And so we can say that each angle on its own should be equal to 540 degrees divided by 5, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles. When we do that, we get that each angle is equal to 108 degrees. But angle 1 is not a complete angle of this pentagon, so we gotta do a little bit more math to figure this out. And so I'm just gonna assign some variables here. I'm gonna relabel angle 1 as x, just because it's a little bit easier for me, at least, to think of this as a variable and not a number. Maybe that's the case for you too, because I get confused if that means that it's 1 degree or if it's a variable. So I'm going to call it x. And with this triangle here, these two sides are actually the same length. So because they're the same length, because of the symmetry of this pentagon, you can say that these two angles are the same value. And so I'm going to call them A and A. And if we look at the other two triangles we have here, when we split up the pentagon this way, these two sides are equal, which means that these angles are also equal. And I'm going to call those Y. And the same on this side, these are also equal to Y, because of the symmetry of this pentagon. And so knowing what we know about each angle being 108 degrees, we can come up with some equations here. And we can say that in this angle, we have x plus 2y, and that equals 108 degrees. We also know that with each angle here, we have a plus y equaling 108 degrees. So y plus a equals 108 degrees. And the last thing we can, or the last equation we can come up with is for this triangle here. And we know that the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So we can say that x plus 2a equals 180 degrees. Okay, so what we have here are 3 variables and 3 equations, and so we can solve this for what we're interested in, which is x. And so to do that, I am going to first look at this equation and solve for y in terms of x in this equation. And so I'm going to subtract x on both sides, which gives me 2y is equal to 108 minus x, divided by 2 on both sides, and I get y is equal to 108 divided by 2 is 54 minus 1/2 x. Okay, in this case, I'm going to solve for a. Subtract y on both sides gives me a is equal to 108 minus y. And this equation is where I'm going to plug everything in. And so I'm going to plug in this expression for a here. So 108 minus y equals 180. And I'm going to plug in this expression for y here. So 108 minus 54 minus 1/2 x equals 180. So now I have one equation with only x as my variable, and that's what I'm trying to find. So now we can solve for x. And the first thing I'm going to do is evaluate this inner bracket. So Just gonna get rid of this bracket here, multiply this negative in, so it's gonna be negative 54. Multiplying this negative in to this negative 1/2 x is gonna be plus 1/2 x. Right, now I can combine like terms here. 108 minus 54 is 54. I have a plus 1/2 x. And I'm going to multiply this 2 into the brackets, so 2 times 54 is 108, and 2 times 1/2 x is just x. X plus x is 2x. And now I'm going to subtract 108 from both sides. Gives me 2x is equal to 72. Dividing by 2 on both sides gives me x is equal to 36. And we actually don't have to find any of the other variables because x is what we're interested in. X is what we've labeled angle 1 as. So angle 1 is 36 degrees. And so that's the answer to part G of question 5. Part I of question 5 is asking us to find angle 1, which is this angle here. And so what we want to recognize with this question, or what we want to remember, is that having equal arcs, or the same arc, has equal inscribed angles. So equal arcs have the same inscribed angles. And so what we have here is, if we look at this arc, here we have this inscribed angle with that arc, and this inscribed angle with this arc. We've been told that this angle is 50 degrees. The arc is the same. That means that this angle has to also equal 50 degrees. And similarly, on this side of the circle, we have another arc with both this inscribed angle and this one here. And this one we've been told is 30 degrees, so this is also 30 degrees. So now we can look at either one of these triangles, and we know that the angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So 180 minus 50 minus 30 is 100 degrees. So this angle here is 100 degrees. And what we have here is a straight line. So this angle and this angle, angle 1 that we're interested in, have to add up to 180 degrees as well. So 180 minus 100 is 80 degrees. So this angle here is 80 degrees. And so angle 1, to answer our question, is 80 degrees.